Michael pushed his heavy cleaning cart down the long hallway of the grand concert hall. The air still hummed with the echoes of yesterday's symphony, a gentle memory clinging to the velvet seats and polished wood. He was a man in his mid-30s, his shoulders a little stooped from years of pushing mops and hauling buckets. Every day, as he wiped down railings and vacuumed thick carpets, his mind often drifted to his daughter, Lily. She was 7, with bright, curious eyes that reminded him so much of her mother. Lily was his whole world now, the reason he traded opera scores for cleaning schedules. He'd hummed a small tune to himself as he worked, a quiet melody that only he seemed to hear. The hall was massive, a place where dreams soared and applause thundered, but for Michael, it was just work. He cleaned every nook and cranny, making sure the sparkling chandeliers truly shone and the stage gleamed under the soft morning light. He imagined Lily's giggle, a sound more beautiful than any orchestra. His hands, once trained for delicate musical instruments, now gripped a dustpan, a testament to the quiet sacrifices he made each day to keep their small world together. As Michael pushed his cart, a soft, rich melody began to escape his lips. It was a familiar opera tune, one his wife had loved to hear him sing. His voice, even in a quiet hum, held a gentle power, a hint of something grand. He wasn't trying to impress anyone. It was simply a comfort, a private moment shared with the echoes of the hall and the memory of his love. He polished a brass banister, the notes flowing effortlessly, a small, happy sound in the vast emptiness. Suddenly, a harsh laugh cut through the air. "Listen to Caruso here!" a gruff voice called out. It was Frank, another cleaner, standing with a few others, all smirking. "Think you're going to sing at the Met, Michael?" Frank snickered, nudging his friend. The others joined in, their laughter echoing a little too loudly in the quiet hall. Michael's cheeks flushed warm. He stopped humming, the beautiful tune dying in his throat. He felt small, like a tiny mouse caught in the spotlight. He just wanted to disappear into the shadows. He mumbled an apology, picking up his pace, trying to become invisible, the joy of his song replaced by a sting of embarrassment. He focused on the dust motes dancing in the sunbeams, wishing he hadn't let his guard down. The sting of Frank's laughter still pricked at Michael, making him keep his lips tightly sealed as he continued his cleaning rounds. He focused on his tasks, trying to melt into the background, a silent worker in a silent hall. But the quiet wouldn't last. A buzz of worried voices soon filled the hallways, louder than usual. Michael saw stagehands rushing, their faces creased with worry. He overheard snatches of frantic talk. "Canceled! Last minute! The maestro is furious!" It turned out that the famous tenor, Mr. Lombardi, who was supposed to sing that very evening, had fallen ill. Very ill. With only hours to go before the curtain was meant to rise, the grand performance was off. The news spread like wildfire, turning the usually bustling hall into a place of hurried whispers and frustrated sighs. The stage, which had been set for a night of dazzling opera, now stood empty. The velvet curtains, meant to part for a star, hung still and heavy. The carefully placed lights shone down on nothing but polished wood, reflecting an eerie silence. Michael looked at the vacant stage, a vast, lonely space that seemed to swallow all the light. A famous singer's absence had left a gaping hole, a sudden quiet void where music should have been. It was a rare sight. A silent stage on the eve of a big show. Michael was just finishing up, wiping down the last row of seats, when a loud, booming voice cut through the heavy silence. "Well, what a disaster! Lombardi indeed! More like Lombardi no-show!" It was Maestro Antonov, the conductor, a man known for his dramatic flair and a booming laugh that filled any room. He stood in the aisle, looking at the empty stage with a frustrated yet mischievous glint in his eye. His gaze swept over the cleaning crew, lingering on Michael, who was trying his best to look busy with a dust cloth. "Ah, our silent singer," Antonov exclaimed, a wide grin spreading across his face. "Since our star has decided to rest his vocal cords, perhaps you, my dear cleaner, would like to step in?" He chuckled, a loud, hearty sound that made Michael's stomach drop. Come on, Michael. Don't be shy. Go up there and show us what you've got. A little aria, perhaps. For a laugh. The other cleaners, including Frank, snickered, nudging each other. Michael felt his face turn red again, the same embarrassment washing over him. He just wanted to sink into the floor. He tried to wave Antonov off, muttering something about just being a cleaner. But the maestro wasn't having it. No. Up you go. Let's brighten this gloomy hall. And with a playful shove, he nudged Michael towards the steps leading to the grand, empty stage. Michael stumbled onto the vast, empty stage, his heart pounding like a drum. The bright stage lights felt like 1,000 eyes on him, even though only a handful of cleaning staff and the conductor were present. He felt silly, his worn work clothes a stark contrast to the grand setting. He looked out at the empty seats, imagining his wife, Clara, sitting there, her smile encouraging him. A deep breath filled his lungs, a breath that felt different from any breath he'd taken in years. It was a breath meant for something more than cleaning. Then, a sound, soft at first, began to rise from him. It was the opening notes of Nessun Dorma, an aria his Clara had adored. The rich, warm notes of a trained tenor voice, once destined for opera houses, now soared through the air. The sound was pure, powerful, and unexpected. It filled every corner of the grand hall, wrapping around the velvet seats, bouncing off the high ceilings, and making the chandeliers almost shimmer. Michael closed his eyes, no longer seeing the empty hall, but feeling Clara's presence, hearing her gentle applause in his memory. His voice, strong and full of feeling, painted a picture of love and longing that was simply breathtaking. As Michael's voice filled the hall, a hush fell over everyone present. The light-hearted snickers from the other cleaners, including Frank, vanished. Their mouths hung open, their eyes wide with disbelief. Maestro Antonov, who had pushed Michael onto the stage as a joke, now stood perfectly still, his usually lively face showing pure shock. His jaw had dropped, and his eyes, usually sparkling with mischief, were fixed on Michael with an intensity that could only be called awe. Not a single person moved. The stagehands, who had been busy clearing props, froze mid-task. The few office staff who had lingered to discuss the cancellation stood rooted to the spot. The air, which moments before had buzzed with frustration and laughter, was now thick with an almost holy stillness. Michael's powerful voice, soaring through the famous aria, held everyone captive. It wasn't just a voice. It was a story, a feeling, a magic that silenced every thought and every sound except for the music. The grand concert hall, usually filled with the sounds of practiced professionals, was now captivated by the unexpected raw talent of its own cleaner. For those few minutes, Michael was not a cleaner. He was the performer the hall was built for. As the last soaring note of Nessun Dorma faded into the stunned silence, Michael slowly opened his eyes. The applause he heard was only in his memory, Clara's gentle clapping. He saw the shocked faces in the hall, and for a moment, the old dream, the one of opera stages and roaring crowds, flickered brightly. But then, a different memory, clearer and more powerful, washed over him. He remembered the day Clara had passed away, leaving him with their tiny baby, Lily, so small and helpless, needing him completely. He remembered holding her, feeling her fragile weight in his arms, and knowing with a deep, certain ache that his life had changed forever. Opera houses, tours, late nights, and demanding rehearsals couldn't be part of a single dad's life. He had chosen Lily. He had traded the spotlight for lullabies, standing ovations for quiet bedtime stories. He had put away his formal suits and picked up cleaning supplies, all to make sure his daughter had a stable, loving home. The stage had been his passion, but Lily was his heart. He had left the music, not because he didn't love it, but because he loved her more. The moment Michael stepped off the stage, the quiet burst into a flurry of excited chatter. Maestro Antonov, his face beaming, rushed forward, grabbing Michael's hand and shaking it vigorously. "Michael, my boy! A true voice! A true hidden treasure!" he exclaimed, his words echoing through the hall. The story of the singing cleaner spread like wildfire. Someone had filmed Michael's performance on a phone, and within hours, the video was everywhere. Soon, the Grand Concert Hall was no longer just a place of music. It was a place of buzzing news vans and flashing cameras. Reporters with microphones pushed their way through the doors, eager to get a scoop. Television crews set up their bright lights, transforming the quiet backstage areas into a chaotic media circus. Mr. O'Connell, how long have you been singing? Did you ever dream of being on stage? What inspired you to sing today? Questions were hurled at him from every direction. Michael, usually unseen and unheard, was now the center of attention. He felt shy and overwhelmed, his cleaning uniform feeling more out of place than ever. He tried to answer simply, explaining that he just cleaned the hall and loved music. But the reporters wanted more, wanting to know every detail about the singing cleaner, the unexpected star who had appeared from behind a mop. The sudden attention was a whirlwind for Michael. He saw himself on TV, heard his name on the radio, and read about the unexpected tenor in the newspaper. While many were amazed by his voice, not everyone believed in him. Some music critics, known for their sharp words, started to question if it was all just a fluke. Was it truly a professional voice? One famous critic wrote, or simply a lucky moment, amplified by the surprise of it all? Another asked, can a cleaner truly possess the discipline and training needed for the opera stage? Or was this merely a viral sensation, a trick of the light? People talked online, some cheering for Michael, others saying it was just a one-time thing. They wondered if he could do it again, under pressure, in front of a real audience. Was he a true talent, or just a charming story? Michael saw these doubts and felt a familiar sting, similar to when his coworkers had laughed at his humming. He knew his past training, the years of hard work, but he also knew how long it had been since he had truly performed. The questions made him wonder too, making the bright spotlight feel a little less warm. The doubts from critics and online chatter made Michael feel like he was back to being invisible, despite all the news stories. He just wanted to go back to his quiet life with Lily. But then, a letter arrived, thick and fancy, with a gold seal. It was from a very rich person named Mrs. Albright, who loved music and helped many artists. Mrs. Albright had seen the video of Michael singing. Unlike the critics, she heard something truly special, something more than just a lucky moment. She saw the raw feeling, the deep talent that shone through his simple cleaning uniform. Her letter wasn't filled with questions or doubts. It was full of praise and a very surprising offer. She wanted to help Michael. She offered to pay for new singing lessons, to help him train his voice again, and most importantly, she offered him a chance to sing on a real stage as a real opera singer. Not as a joke, not as a cleaner, but as the tenor he was meant to be. It was a chance to step back into the world he had left behind, a world of music and bright lights, a world that had once been his dream. Michael held the letter, his hand shaking a little. It was a door opening, a path appearing where he thought there were only walls. With Mrs. Albright's generous offer, Michael began to prepare for his return to the stage. It was a strange mix of excitement and nervousness. During one of his visits to the concert hall for a meeting about his future performances, he met Sarah. She was the hall's new event organizer, a kind woman in her mid-30s with a warm smile and bright, thoughtful eyes. Sarah had heard all the stories about the singing cleaner, but she saw beyond the headlines. She had watched his viral video many times, not just for the amazing voice, but for the quiet strength in his eyes. When they spoke, Michael didn't boast or act like a star. He spoke softly about his love for music, his nervousness about performing again, and most of all, about his daughter, Lily. He talked about how important it was for him to be a good father, and how Lily was his reason for everything. Sarah was deeply touched by his humility. In a world full of big egos, Michael was truly gentle and real. She saw how genuine he was, how his heart was clearly in the right place, not just for music, but for his family. She found herself admiring him more and more with each conversation. He wasn't just a voice, he was a good man. And that, to Sarah, was a beautiful thing. Their meetings about Michael's upcoming performances became something more. Sarah found reasons to talk to Michael beyond work, asking about his daughter, sharing stories about her own day. Michael, who had kept his heart closed for so long, felt a warmth bloom inside him whenever Sarah was near. Her smile was easy, her laughter gentle, and she listened to him with genuine interest, not just as the singing cleaner, but as Michael. They started having coffee together after his vocal lessons, then dinner, and soon they were spending time outside the concert hall. Sarah met Lily, who, after a little shyness, quickly took a liking to Sarah's kind eyes and playful spirit. It was a slow, gentle unfolding, like a beautiful flower opening its petals. Michael found himself looking forward to each new day, not just for the music he was rediscovering, but for the quiet joy Sarah brought into his life. He realized he was starting to fall for her. It felt scary, but also wonderfully right. Sarah, too, felt a deep connection, drawn to his honesty and the loving way he spoke of Lily. A new, hopeful romance was quietly beginning, a melody of two hearts finding harmony after a long, silent time. One evening, bathed in the soft glow of the living room lamp, Michael watched Lily. She sat on the rug, her small fingers carefully opening a tiny wooden music box. A delicate tinkling tune, a simplified version of Nessun Dorma, drifted from it. It was a gift from Sarah, a thoughtful present for Lily. Lily's eyes, bright and full of wonder, were fixed on the dancing ballerina inside. Michael smiled, a deep, contented smile that reached his eyes. He thought of his journey, from a cleaner humming in secret, to a surprised performer, to a renewed singer with a second chance. He thought of Sarah, whose quiet understanding had helped mend his heart. He thought of Clara, whose memory still guided him, and whose favorite aria now filled his home in a new, gentle way. Lily closed the music box, then looked up at Michael, her face alight with innocent pride. She held the small box close to her chest, her fingers tracing the carved patterns. Softly, almost a whisper, she said, "Daddy sings for us." Her words were simple, but they held all the love and pride in her little heart. Michael's own heart swelled with happiness. He had found his voice again, not just for the stage, but for his daughter, for Sarah, and for the beautiful full life they were building together. The music had truly come home.